you hear good things.
Hey, real quick, before we start, if you've been enjoying the podcast, take a second to leave a rating or review. It helps more than you know, especially if you're listening to my voice right now on Apple Podcast. And if you've been riding with murderers for a while, don't be afraid to go ahead and drop me another quick review. Again, it helps a lot. Okay, let's get into it. She was raised on tradition, built her life on discipline. A daughter of Bogotá, trained to be poised, polished, perfect. She became a dentist, a businesswoman, a stepmother, a wife. She wore her reputation like a tailored suit. Elegant, fitted, untouchable. The kind of woman who sent thank you notes and packed her husband's lunch. But perfection is a heavy thing to carry, especially when you're the only one lifting it. Beneath the surface of Clara Harris's life, a quiet erosion had begun. Stress, insecurity. A husband who started working late. And a marriage that no longer looked the same behind closed doors. This isn't the story of a woman snapping overnight. It's the story of a woman unraveling, one quiet creak at a time. I'm Sidney Smith, and this is Murderous Podcast. This week's murderess is Clara Harris. In part 1, cracks in the perfect wife. She was born Clara Suarez in Bogotá, Colombia, a place of contrast, where colonial mansions overlooked bustling markets, and where order and chaos lived side by side. Her family lived firmly on the side of order. In Clara's childhood home, there were rules, expectations. She was raised in a conservative Catholic household, where family honor wasn't just a value, it was a legacy. Loyalty to your parents, respect for your elders, faith in God. And above all, discipline. From the very beginning, Clara followed the script. She was a bright student, not just smart, but meticulous. The kind of girl who color-coded her notebooks, double-checked her test answers, and cried if she got a B. Somewhere along the way, she began to shape a vision for herself. It wasn't vague or dreamy. It was structured, like everything else she did. She wanted more than Colombia could ever offer her, more than tradition. She wanted America. Because to Clara, America wasn't just freedom. It was elegance, clean streets, safe neighborhoods, shiny storefronts. It was the promise that if you did everything right, you could have it all. Love, money, status, control. So in her early 20s, Clara made that huge leap. She left Bogotá behind, immigrating to the United States alone. No friends, no family. Just the force of her ambition and an almost religious belief that if she worked hard enough, she would not just survive, she would thrive. She hit the ground in Louisiana and enrolled in college. choosing the path in science. Then moved on to Texas, where she pursued dentistry, a profession that blended care, precision, and respect. It was technical, clean, admired, like Clara herself. By the time she entered her 30s, Clara Suarez had become Dr. Clara Harris. Not just a Colombian immigrant, but a poised, accomplished woman with a white coat, a spotless office, and a plan. She had carved her American dream by hand, perfectly and exactly. But perfection has a weight to it, and even the most pristine surfaces can crack. She didn't waste time. After dental school, Clara Harris launched straight into practice. No detours, no missteps, just a clean transition into the life she'd been chasing since she left home. Hell, maybe even before then. And she wasn't just competent, she was excellent. Colleagues and patients alike described her as focused, gentle handed, and poised. Her profession wasn't just a job, it was a performance. And Clara always hit her mark. It was during those early days, in the buzzing corridors of an orthodontic chain outside Houston, that she met David Harris. David was tall, charismatic. He carried himself with the relaxed confidence of someone used to being in charge. He was a regional manager, not a dentist, but still very much in the orbit of polished white coats and perfect smiles. He was already divorced and raising twin daughters. Claire saw that as a package deal, not a burden, but an opportunity. Something she could fold into the image of the life she'd always wanted. That ready-made home. Family. Their courtship moved fast. Not reckless, just efficient. There was chemistry, yes, but also something pragmatic in how they moved forward. They knew what they wanted, and together they built it. Clara joined David's network, and soon the two were co-running a booming dental practice in Friendswood, Texas. Now, that part of Texas, Friendswood, it's not a flashy town. It's not Houston, and it's not Galveston. But for those who live there, that's the point. It's safe, upper middle class, very aware of his image, as much as the folks who live there. The kind of place where yard signs matter and reputations stick. And in that world, Claire stood out, not just for her skill, but for her presentation. She was immaculate. Every day, even in the back office, she wore designer heels. Her hair was styled. Her nails perfect. One patient remembered seeing her in the hallway and thinking, is she going to a gala or a gum surgery? She had warmth and plenty of it, but it was always measured, controlled. Even when she was laughing with a patient or hugging one of the twins, You got the sense Clara was playing a role, one she had written herself. In Friendswood, she was seen as the perfect blend of immigrant grit and southern polish. A self made woman in pearls, a doctor, a wife, a mother. But perfection is heavy, and eventually, even polish starts to crack. Clara didn't just marry David Harris, she married into a life already in motion. He came with two teenage daughters, twins, Lindsey and Brienne. Lindsey especially had a hard time with Clara at first. Clara wasn't their mother, and she didn't try to be. But she also didn't let herself fade into the background. She organized, she coordinated, she made the holidays sparkle. Discipline was expected. Respect was non negotiable. And for a while, it worked. The girls adjusted. David flourished. And when Claire gave birth to their son, David Jr., the family felt full. A sense of balance came to it, almost made for TV. They moved into that friendly town, into a beautiful home, right there in Friendswood, Texas. 4 bedrooms. Claire managed the office, mothered the kids, booked the vacations, remembered birthdays. The lawn was edged, the pantry was labeled. The Harris family Christmas cards looked like they belonged in a Hallmark aisle. Everything was clean, everything was controlled. Her family back in Bogotá beamed with pride. To them, Clara had become the American dream personified. Wife, mother, business owner, all without ever raising her voice or letting her heels sink into the grass. But that kind of balance takes effort, and effort eventually reveals friction. At home, Claire's perfectionism left little room for surprises. She managed the schedules, double checked the receipts. She even ran the numbers on the practice every week. David didn't mind, not at first. It kept him freed up. David was just free to charm patients, network, grow his visibility. Clara kept the engine running. Seems like the perfect team, doesn't it? But somewhere along the way, trust became expectation. And expectation became vigilance. There were whispers, just whispers, that Clara began checking David's voicemails, that she monitored credit card charges, that she noticed when shirts came back from the cleaners smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't hers. But if you asked Clara, she wouldn't have said she was jealous. She would have said she was protecting everything she'd built. Every scrubbed tile, every stocked drawer, every carefully blended smile in that family photo. She had clawed her way into this perfect life, and she wasn't about to lose it. There wasn't a single moment where it all fell apart. No explosion, no confetti of red flags. Just small shifts. Quiet, almost forgettable. David started traveling more, sometimes for training, sometimes to attend a conference. He always had a reason, and it always sounded reasonable. But Clara noticed the silence that followed him out the door. Fewer phone calls, quicker goodbyes, that soft kind of absence where the person's not really gone, but it almost feels like you've been forgotten about. You know, not the loud kind that leaves a note, the kind that slips in and out like a draft under the door. She'd filled the space by working. Longer hours after practice, more time with patients. Sometimes she'd take an extra shift just to avoid the house when it was too quiet. The spotless counters, the half-drunk coffee on the sink. Everything looked perfect. Everything sounded fine. But something in the rhythm had changed. Friends said Clara became more, what's that word again? Meticulous? She wore heels even when it wasn't practical. Her lipstick always matched her outfit. She checked voicemails obsessively. Not in front of everyone, just in little glances. A flick of worry behind her eyes. She told one friend over lunch, "I won't be like those women who get left behind." Now, she said it with a laugh, but her eyes didn't smile. This was Clara's version of control. Not shouting or suspicion, but sharp tailoring. Clean lines. If her home stayed perfect, her family would stay intact. If she watched closely enough, nothing could slip past her. But the more she tightened the laces, the more she strained the seams. And beneath all that poise, the questions were starting to stack up. She didn't ask them yet, not out loud. Because if something was wrong, she'd fix it. Clara always fixed things. You've been listening to a production of Sidney Smith Creative, LLC, and the You Hear Good Things Podcast Network. All rights reserved. For more true crime stories that stay with you, follow Murderous Podcast on your favorite platform and join the Quiet Jewelry community on Patreon for early access, bonus content, and deeper cuts. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious.